I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace, find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the real ones suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders, pushing up just like these boulders. This conflict like it's water, so this mercy, take my chalice, seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers to give out.
Politics and sinners, they all the same. Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and keep the receipts. I just want all of humanity to be free. And clean the seas and stop the greed. I want to see clean skies and all innocence roam free. This obsession with
Good morning. So, welcome to the Urban Conservative. Good morning. And I'm bringing you Exposing the Game, the fraud, the injustice, and the war on the truth. With that being said, I play independent music first. So, with that being said, situationship. Miss Rosario, the goddess, with circumstantial saint.
Maybe I was confused. Yeah, cause I ain't know what you wanted. What was I supposed to do? I did what I thought you wanted, like you said. Situationship, take it off, make you bust a nut, turn around and dip, no trip. Cause this is what you asked for from day one. Now you want more than a situationship? Now you asking for a relationship? When we started like this? Oh. It's not a situationship. Alright. My goddess.
I wanted it to be you. I mean, it felt so right. The times that we spent felt so real. Or maybe I wanted it to be real. I found myself wanting to smell you all the time. You smell just like shea butter, and I can never wait for the next encounter. I can smell you again. That was the problem. I never knew if the next time was coming. The anticipation, the uneasiness, the maybes, or who knows. That right there was the problem of the situationship.
Yeah, I wanted it to be you too, but it felt kind of tight. The times we spent was real, but you wanted to keep it out of sight.
I had no say-so, so I kept my mouth shut because this was just hookup filled with lies. I told myself, you already made it clear. There was no static in the background because you sent it via text.
Listen, you smell so good and I kept you away, so I could miss and crave you every day. I would beg you to stay if I actually knew how you felt, especially that one day. Dipping through traffic on Girard trying to get the KOP for keeps, cause I thought you made me.
The letters were in black and white, just so you know, we are just friends. And I don't want nothing more. My heart sunk just a little, but you had a right to want what you wanted, and that wasn't me. But of course you love to keep the sexual tension going, and I obliged. I mean, that was good.
It was good.
You were my best kept secret. It was time to end it. The curtains needed to be closed. I knew the situationship was blocking my partner.
What about me?
As long as I am bonded to you, then I cannot go on to him, my husband.
Who cannot be?
My lifelong partner would not want me in this situationship. When I meet him, he will want me ready, as he has been praying for me for years.
Yeah.
He has been looking for me for years.
I'm looking for you.
He cannot find me. I was too busy being trapped in this situationship, this maze.
Right here. It's not a situation.
I knew I had to end it. But that what if kept me holding on to you.
I'm here.
Just like a man praying for his hairline to grow back after he bald. I knew I was full of it. But those tarot card readers kept saying that eventually you will want to submit. Well, it's been 3 years, and I'm still in this situation.
It's not a situation.
I got lost trying to find the exit. I didn't know how to end it. So I have to block you on all social media platforms and change my number. I wasn't strong enough to face you, so I would run. I mean, after all, you was the one playing games. I am choosing me because I know my lifelong partner is looking for me. I want him to find me this time. I want him to know I too been manifesting him. I want him to know that the universe, because the universe knows our souls. Now, here you are, you won't leave me alone. You showing up on my doorstep, crying, telling me you changed, the decision has been made. You was my greatest sad love story that never got the chance to outgrow the cocoon phase. I told you I wanted you so bad to be mine, but now I feel nothing. I craved you, but now I am waiting for my future partner. I am telling you, when he finds me, he will know who I am, and I will know who he is. My man and my lifelong partner will never play with me or make me confused. He will never increase my anxiety. He will ease my mind of any doubt, confusion, or hesitation. My lifelong partner will know I am the one without stagnation. See, I am not your girl, and you are not my guy. My lifelong partner is waiting for me to choose me.
Yeah. Maybe I was confused. Cause I didn't know what you wanted. What was I supposed to do? I did what I thought you wanted. Like you said, a situationship. A situationship. I wanna be yours. Damn. Alright. I wanna be yours. There was miscommunication, I'm already yours. You can't close the door. I'm not here to stagnate, I wanna integrate and hold you when it's late. I wanna keep you dry under rain and lay with you when it's bright, so we can exit the maze. My lifelong partner is bright as day. Mind is sharp and she knows pain, but she finds a way to make the darkness of night burn like the sun rays. My lifelong partner, I know. It's you. Stop playing the fool. It's been 3 years. So what you trying to do? Fuck this situationship. I'm here for keeps. What you trying to make of it? Fuck the situationship. Mrs. Rosario. Circumstantial saint. My goddess. The goddess.
Choose me.
Yeah, situationship. Circumstantial saint. Featuring Miss Rosario, the goddess. I actually like that. I like that video. That was kind of dope. So I want to get into what they didn't tell you about Jim Crow. And I want to talk about that, right? So I want to get into this, what they actually didn't want you to know about Jim Crow. So let me get into that.
Jim Crow was the name of a racial caste system which consisted primarily in the South between 1877 and the mid-1960s. And if this is the type of content that you enjoy, you can find more content like this, onemichistory.com. Also, if you want to support the channel, you can do so at my Patreon page or my Buy Me Coffee in the description below. Also, please give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the channel. But without further ado, let's get started. The term Jim Crow derives from early 19th century minstrel shows, the popular form of entertainment which is the predecessor to vaudeville. The shows consisted of a primarily white song and dance performer crudely mimicking African Americans for the enjoyment of white audiences. One of the earliest and most famous was Thomas Daddy Rice, who devised a strutting, dancing character supposedly mimicking a prancing crow, and the character became known as Jim Crow. How the character named Jim Crow became a general term for America's racial segregation and discrimination is not known, but at some point during the 19th century, the term ceased to have anything to do with minstrel shows because their popularity had started to wane and instead signified the practice of disenfranchising, physically discriminating against African Americans. From the very beginning, Jim Crow was a way of life. Under Jim Crow, African Americans were relegated to the status of second-class citizens. Jim Crow was underpinned by the belief or the rationalization that whites were superior to blacks in intelligence, morality, and civilized behavior. Many Christian ministers taught whites that they were the chosen people and blacks were cursed to be servants. God supported racial segregation. Additionally, at almost every education level, they taught the belief that blacks were innately, intelligently, culturally inferior to whites. Pro-segregation politicians gave speeches about the dangers of integration and the mixing of races. Newspapers and magazines routinely referred to blacks as niggers and coons, and their articles reinforced anti-black stereotypes. Any activity that suggested social equality encouraged interracial unions, and interracial unions could produce a mixed race that would destroy America. Therefore, violence must be used to keep blacks in their place. In fact, during the 30s, when the Nazis had set out to disenfranchise and discriminate against their Jewish citizens, they closely studied the laws of Jim Crow in the United States. They admired the Jim Crow era laws and debated whether they should introduce a similar system of segregation in Germany. Additionally, when the idea of banning Jewish and Aryan marriages were presented to the Nazis, they once again looked to America to adopt an idea similar to the one-drop rule that stipulated that anyone with one drop of black ancestry was legally black and could not marry a white person. Jim Crow took place in 2 distinct forms: Jim Crow etiquette and Jim Crow laws, i.e. black codes. Jim Crow etiquette governed how African Americans should behave in white society, and sometimes the etiquette would vary from person to person. For instance, black males could not offer their hand to shake to a white male or any other part of their body to a white female. Black males couldn't even light the cigarette of a white female. Blacks and whites were not supposed to eat together, but if they did eat together, whites would be served first. A black couple was not allowed to show affection towards one another in public. And whites did not use courtesy titles of respect when referring to African Americans, like Mr. or Mrs. or ma'am. Instead, blacks were referred to by their first name. But blacks absolutely had to use courtesy titles when referring to whites and could not use their first name. This informality of whites using the first names instead of courtesy titles caused many African Americans to start using initials for their first name. Jim Crow etiquette operated in conjunction with Jim Crow laws, i.e. black codes. Black codes excluded blacks from things like public transportation and facilities, juries, jobs, neighborhoods. The passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to the Constitution granted blacks some of the same legal protections as whites. However, after the Compromise of 1877, the South and border states began restricting the liberties of African Americans once again. Over the next few years, segregation and disenfranchisement picked up pace in the South, and it was more or less tolerated in the North. In 1890, Louisiana passed the separate car law. This Louisiana law made it illegal for blacks to sit in coach seats reserved for whites, and whites couldn't sit in coach seats reserved for blacks. The idea was to aid passenger comfort by creating equal but separate facilities for blacks and whites. But this was a joke. Almost no public accommodations, including railway travel, provided blacks with equal facilities. So in 1891, a group of blacks decided to test the Jim Crow law. They had a man by the name of Homer Plessy, who was 1/8 black, sit in the white-only coach section. And he was, of course, promptly arrested. Plessy's lawyers argued that Louisiana did not have the right to label one citizen as black and another as white for the purpose of restricting their rights and privileges. On May 18, 1896, the Supreme Court delivered its verdict, and by a 7-2 vote declared the separate but equal facilities constitutional on interstate railroads. The court ruled that the protections of the 14th Amendment applied only to political and civil rights and not social rights. Judge Henry Brown wrote, to consist in the assumption that the enforced separation of two cars stamps the colored race with a badge of inferiority, if this be so, it is not by any reason found in the act, but solely because the colored race chooses to construct upon it. The Plessy versus Ferguson verdict legitimized two different societies, one white and superior, and the other black and disenfranchised. For blacks, the Supreme Court further underpinned the constitutional protections of blacks and made Jim Crow laws a way of life. The Plessy versus Ferguson verdict sent a message that discrimination against blacks was acceptable, so other laws followed, like grandfather clauses, as well as poll taxes, white-only primaries, and literacy tests. Other states passed statutes severely regulating social interactions between the races. Jim Crow signs were placed on water fountains, door entrances, and exits in front of public facilities. There were separate hospitals for whites and blacks, separate prisons, separate public and private schools, and separate restrooms. And of course, in most instances, black facilities were grossly inferior, and in other cases, there were no black facilities at all. The Plessy versus Ferguson verdict gave Jim Crow states a legal way to ignore their obligations to African Americans as citizens of this country. Jim Crow laws and the system of etiquette was backed by the threat of violence. African Americans who violated those social norms by drinking at a white water fountain or trying to vote risked everything from their homes to their jobs to their very lives. Whites could physically beat blacks with complete immunity, and blacks had little legal recourse against these assaults because the criminal justice system was a part of the Jim Crow system. Matter of fact, violence was instrumental in Jim Crow because it was used as a method of social control to enforce the racial hierarchy. The most extreme form of this violence was lynching. The legal definition of lynching is with 3 or more persons put someone to death without legal sanction. Jim Crow lynchings were public, often sadistic murders carried out by mobs, and from 1882 to 1968, there were almost 4,730 known lynchings, and 3,440 of them were made up of black men and women. Black lynchings accounted for 72% of the total lynchings that we know of. Well, most victims were hung or shot, but they could be burned at the stake, castrated, beaten with clubs, or dismembered. During the mid-1880s, whites constituted majority of the lynching victims. However, after Reconstruction, blacks more frequently became victims of lynching. During the lynching era, white lives were held at a higher value, while the lives of African Americans held little to no value. Law-abiding African Americans lived with a daily risk of arbitrary and possibly deadly violence. One of the first major challenges to Jim Crow since Plessy versus Ferguson was Brown versus the Board of Education. In the decision, It was issued on May 17, 1954. The court concluded in its opinion by declaring segregated public school education inherently unequal in a 9-0 decision. They stated that this violated the Equal Protection Clause. The Equal Protection Clause is the part of the first section of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, and the clause provides that nor shall a state deny any person within its jurisdiction equal protections under the law. This decision declared that segregated public schools were unconstitutional, and that decision had far-reaching social ramifications. During the early 60s, after numerous civil rights demonstrations and protests were held, particularly in the South, the civil rights movement pushed the Kennedy administration to give their full-fledged support to a civil rights bill. President Kennedy sent the civil rights bill to Congress, but legislation was blocked. After Kennedy's assassination, President Lyndon B. Johnson called for the immediate passage of Kennedy's civil rights legislation as a memorial to the deceased president. Johnson formed a coalition that led to the passage of the bill in early 1964. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 guaranteed public accommodations at restaurants and authorized the Justice Department to bring suits to force desegregation of facilities in schools, also gave new powers to a Civil Rights Commission, and allowed federal funds to be cut off in cases of discrimination. By 1965, Lyndon B. Johnson also called for stronger voting rights laws and began working on what became the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 ended any legal barriers to voting at all federal and state and local elections. It provided federal oversight and monitoring to counties with historically low minority voter turnout. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 made Jim Crow laws technically illegal, but many African Americans paid for Jim Crow with their lives, and the impact of the long history of Jim Crow continues to be felt in the United States today. Thank you. This has been One Mike. I'm your host, Country Boy.
So when you sit there and you think about it, like, you know, there's just so much going on, man. And we look at things in various lights, right? And I wonder if that's because the education was a certain way. I do honestly believe that, you know, education is, you know, dependent on where you live, where you, your zip code, you know, what county you were born in, where you were raised. That's what I feel like people are educated differently. You know what I'm saying? And I think there needs to be more education, because I sit there and I think about it. How many individuals, and you know, answer if you want to or whatever, but how many people knew that the White House and certain buildings in DC were built by slaves? You know, and then you think about all these black people that go out there and we party. You know, we're gonna have a section in the White House, you know, lawn, whatever they want to call it. You know, that's gonna be a black, you know, Kobe Bryant, Martin Luther King. But then I feel like they're not gonna give us the real leaders. You know what I'm saying? Ones that we can attach to them, like Malcolm X, Fred Hampton. You know, what about a museum or piece of land for the move bomber victims? Because you guys are still finding bodies. You're still finding evidence that our government killed people. And I don't understand that. It's like, what will we do? Because I'll tell you like this. I was listening to the fraud committee this morning, and it's like, it's baffling to me sometimes, you know, and then it's like, really, I should really expect it, because they throw these words back at the legislators, and it's like, it's a fucking game. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is all a big ass point the finger. Let's spin the bottle And then that's who's responsible today. Like, damn, we ain't never gonna get no answers. Because I'll tell you like this. I know, honestly, I don't know what people are thinking when they're watching that. State capitol. But I can tell you this is that when I watch it, especially when it comes to the fraud committee, a lot of it is, like DHS is up there today. And it's like, wow, they're talking about CCAP, daycare. And it's like, Jesus Lord, they've only got 4 investigators and all this money has been sent out. And, people have done investigations of, nobody was children at the daycare. They didn't have no children. They didn't have, and it's like, I don't even get it, man. It's yeah, right. It's like a one big circus. Because to be honest, I'm really feeling like that, and it's like, to me, and then I get this, people are gonna be like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, read it. It's the Roman bread circus theory, man. Like, I don't even get that because you listen to this shit and it's like they just point the finger. Nobody actually gets be held accountable because it's so quick to be able to. They're able to point the finger. And then, that's the one I can hear, and it's wild to me. It's wild to me. Because like, even when it came to this peer recovery specialist, well, our bosses told us we could do this. Well, then, the boss would be like, well, they told us we could do this. Just like we're seeing with New Way. For years, that was a recovery center where, as long as you were going to therapy, you were going to recovery, outpatient, they would pay for your housing. Well, that's illegal, because it's open it's ripe for kickbacks. And that's something that has been, so instead of, here's my thing of it is, because, you're about to have over 1,000 people I don't know what's fuck's going to happen, to be honest. They could be homeless. They could be all types of shit. But my thing of it is, y'all already knew, so why not fix that loophole and correct it? That's the one thing we always look for: affirmative action, but not corrective action. I don't get that, because here's the thing of it is, I saw a tweet this morning from Ben Crump and Joy Reid's show. Nigga, I never watched Joy Reid. I've never watched MSNBC, not Joy Reid like that. I've never watched the episode unless it was a clip on Twitter, or somebody like Roland or Boyce or Tariq somebody was playing a clip. I never watched her shit like that. And just like The View, I don't even be seeing half this shit. I'd be like, what? And then it's like, but people pay attention to that shit. So to be honest, I mean, I don't know what to say anymore, because, people, I saw a post today on Facebook of like, oh, the first thing I do is wake up in the morning, I grab my coffee, and I watch the news about Elon and the president. Psst, really? Also, you just be looking for some motherfucking lies just to kick off your day. You don't even want the truth. You know what I'm saying? And that's the one crazy thing, is because so I woke up this morning. I don't know how everybody else did, but I woke up this morning and I had some emails. So I was going through them. Well, I came up on this bill, right? Max Reimer wrote it for Goodwill. It's called the Fathers Project. And I started to like, damn, y'all just be ignoring niggas in Minneapolis. You know what I'm saying? And I don't understand that, because I talk to a great father, a single father, Marcus Smith, damn near every day, to check up on him, or at least message him. That's my motherfucking brother. But to see the shit that we got to go through, and I'm not even saying like, because it's the person that I will tell you that Marcus is, he would get up, the shirt off his back. This is an individual that honestly is, you want to call him a self-made man? Let's call it that, because this is a nigga that was going through eviction court, that was going through somebody trying to take away his daughter, and still yet there to fight for the community every motherfucking day. Every day when it came to, calling people out, because that's the one thing that I will tell you, we're not going to get anywhere in this shit if we don't start calling out the gatekeepers. If we don't start calling out people that we're knowing that get millions of dollars, but nothing changes in our community. Nothing changes in our community. So in my eyes, like, when are we going to do something? This is the Father's project, right? So let's go to the bill, actually, the bill. So it's a $2 million allotment. And I'm like, damn. But here's the thing of it is, they put Rochester in there. They put Park Rapids. They put St. Cloud, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and the surrounding areas. This is fathers and overcoming barriers that prevent fathers from supporting their children economically and emotionally. Where I want to say this, I want to ask a question, right? It all depends on what side of politics you're on. Because I'm going to tell you like this, if you don't agree with, let's say, an Andy Smith, let's say if you don't agree with the Wale, who is the president of NAACP and works for Mayo Clinic, if you don't agree with Mayor Norton, and then they have a liberal-ass council, the same thing in Minneapolis, you think they really want to deal with somebody that's a Republican, that is a known, he hasn't voted Republican, he didn't vote for Trump, but he supports it, he supports the policies, all because he understands that this is a nigga from Chicago. A nigga from Chicago that understands that there's policies and legislation in place to fuck us over. We can't, that's the so bad they want to erase history. So fucking bad. And I get it, because y'all done fucked up. Y'all done fucked up. And y'all want to point the blame. And first of all, y'all want to erase it. You want to erase it. So then I started to think about this. Me and Marcus were having a conversation yesterday about, trans men are out here having babies. Hey, I'm whatever you want to call it, right? I just don't get that shit, because when I was in school, right, there was two genders. There was you were either a man or a woman. That's what was taught. We in science, we talked about chromosomes. We talked about, everybody was, some people were XX and some people were XY chromosomes, and, bullshit like that. I shouldn't say bullshit, but now it's, you can be whatever you want to be. I've seen people in communities that, and this is no motherfucking lie, because there's videos that you can, on TikTok, on YouTube, that there's people that actually live like as furries. They live like a dog, a cat, a horse, but they're human. Hey, I don't agree with that, but hey, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. But when are we going to care about our babies? When are we going to care about our kids? Because I will tell you like this, is that, George Floyd got me out of the house. He got me off of the couch and out of the house to pay attention to what was going around in my surroundings. You know what woke me up? Was youth dying at the hands of niggas that didn't give a fuck. Some coward ass niggas, that killed Anaya, that killed Trinity, that paralyzed LaDavion. And then, what's the crazy thing is, you couldn't even just be a bystander anymore. You couldn't even be, that's the one, you couldn't be out enjoying what the fuck you were doing, because niggas can't handle their liquor. They can't handle their cocaine. And they can't handle their feelings because they're all bottled up. So then you have innocent bystanders that got to pay the price. That, like a Vanessa Jensen, who was just out watching drag racing and yet no longer here. Just out being an everyday American, being somebody that, you know, I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. You know, that's the one crazy part, because how many people do we know in our communities that are single fathers and would be perfect for this project? And all they want to give is $2 million, but yet you just seen that there was a $15 million allotment. For what? I don't understand that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, we totally ignore. I'm gonna reach out to Max Reimer today, because I'm gonna get Marcus involved in this. I literally was reading this shit and I was like, that's crazy. How many individuals do we know in our community that are single fathers and could be blessed with this? Could be blessed. Because they're out here trying to do better while everybody else is stacked up here not trying to do no better. Because I will tell you like this, if you're not watching the Fraud and Oversight Committee hearings, and they're talking about, you know, CCAP, they're talking about daycare, they're talking about Medicaid, and all that shit, and then you listen to just these words these people are using, and this blame game, this shit's crazy as fuck to me, man. It's sad. It's sad as hell. It's yeah, I mean, it's really, it's crazy as hell in my eyes, you know. And here's another thing, you know, when it comes down to, you know, talking about, you know, pointing the finger. I found this video this morning. It's probably about 5 minutes long, I think. But we had some legislation, driver's license for all, right? Well, they're able to get, you know, jobs, you know, driving the school bus. Well, there's a lawsuit in Minneapolis, and Septran buses where an individual was hit. And then you find out the driver had numerous write-ups, but yet wasn't fired, wasn't really held accountable. And then somebody died, and then everybody wanted to pay attention. So here's a story out of Minneapolis.
911, what's the address of the emergency? 28th and Cedar.
Bus just ran some guy over.
I don't think he realized what he did.
They're under the back tire. I don't think they're alive.
It was a gruesome sight in South Minneapolis.
He came flying around the corner.
A Septran school bus with a single student on board.
I'm coming from that side. I turn the left.
Crashing into a pedestrian.
You can actually see the bus bouncing as it's trying to get over the body.
Hit the guy, jogged him all the way here.
That pedestrian was 27-year-old Josue Coches Perez, who was on his way home from work. He was in the crosswalk with the walk signal and the right-of-way.
They drugged the person.
Oh, good. Okay.
Josue was dragged more than 100 feet. He died pinned underneath the school bus, not far from where his parents live.
¿Cómo? No puede ser.
They recall the pain in learning about the death of their son, who had a wife and 3 young children. I wanted the earth to swallow me up, his father says.
Morir.
Heartbroken, his mother tells us she wanted to die.
Sí.
And his brother left with serious questions about the bus company and the driver that company trusted behind the wheel.
They're just not doing enough. And
Attorney Roger Poles represents the victim's family in a lawsuit filed against the bus company Septran and the driver.
you've got to have a better system in place to make sure these drivers are not on the road.
Driver? Yes, okay.
That driver was Osman Ali, who was recently convicted of careless driving and failure to yield to a pedestrian. Here, he's seen sitting in the back of a squad car shortly after that April 2023 crash.
No. When I come in, the light is green. Okay. I don't see him
When I pass, I think it's a cone or something. I try to stop, I can't stop, you know?
Was this driver qualified to be driving a school bus?
So everything that we've received back in this trial so far has been no.
The driver was employed by Septran, a school bus company that had a $4 million contract to drive students for Minneapolis public schools.
They both have that same obligation to make sure these training requirements are being met and that these drivers are doing what they're being trained to do.
So you only did a couple of these questions or on the Appendix E?
A Minnesota state trooper found Ali failed to complete this document known as Appendix E nearly a month before the crash. It's a written test that's legally required by state law, but the driver only answered 8 of the 20 safety questions.
You did not go over the appendix with him, so you just...
The trainer should have, because they're the ones that were with him when he filled it out.
Damn.
Because of that, Ali was not certified to drive a school bus. And in this field report, the trooper says Ali, quote, wasn't able to demonstrate that he had sufficient skills and knowledge to transport students in a safe and legal manner.
How do we not look at this and say, we gotta pull him off the road?
These internal Septran coaching records obtained by the Fox 9 investigators reveal Ali's driving record had already been raising red flags for months.
Just an ongoing pattern of behavior from this driver of just really kind of disregarding basic safety.
This sophisticated dash camera mounted inside Ali's school bus was equipped with artificial intelligence. That generated coaching records, which flagged Ali for risky driving 20 times in the 3 months before the crash.
It indicates over and over, incomplete stop, failing to wear his seatbelts on the bus.
What does that tell you?
Somebody wasn't paying attention.
Right.
Somebody up above, supervisors. Their program's not working.
Now, Septran declined to comment on this story, citing pending litigation. But the company's own coaching records reveal how Septran responded to Ali's driving violations. For example, March 14th, he is making great strides in getting this under control. March 24th, told driver we need to make complete stops. April 14th, just days before that crash, he is making good progress getting this under control.
It's a rubber stamp. It's to say it's to look good on paper.
Do you think the coaching has been effective?
Well, clearly it hasn't been. This individual didn't have to die that day. And had we paid attention to these violations, had somebody had the courage to say, no, we got to take you off the road. We got to put somebody else on that route. This accident doesn't happen.
The victim's parents tell us they hope the bus company can realize the mistakes they've made as they continue to cope with the loss of their son.
Muy difícil.
Ali, the bus driver, no longer works for Septran, and he's set to be sentenced on his criminal charges next month. As for Minneapolis Public Schools, a spokesperson said that the district, quote, has protocols in place to keep our students safe while traveling to and from school on our buses. But the district would not comment any further because of those ongoing legal matters. For the Fox 9 investigators, I'm Nathan O'Neill.
Yeah, that shit, you know, I watched a lot of it. I watched it with you guys, but, you know, I stopped it probably was like a minute and a half into it when I seen the story, especially when they got further into it. And I was like, damn, that's insane. Because again, we're leaving interpretation at people's benefit. And then here's the thing of it is, they didn't really take anything serious until a person lost their life. And I don't understand it. Even when it came to Derek Chauvin, they didn't take Zoya. They didn't take John Pope. They didn't take Miss Day. Nobody took that. They all knew because it was there. We had body cam footage. It was there. It was, you know, saying it was, we knew about it. But we decided to hide some of this shit instead of, you know, coming out and being transparent about it. You know, we didn't want to know that, you know, Minneapolis police officers were, even though we hear about the shit all the time, you know what I'm saying? That like, I just don't get that, right? That's why I look at certain motherfuckers a certain way nowadays. You know, even when people went up to the White House last Thursday for Black History Month, when Trump did that, I don't care Because what tangibles are we getting in our community? Because I'll tell you like this, right? Is I honestly, I don't know what to think anymore. To be honest, I don't know, right? I used to think that Democrats were the answer, but I can see that's not the answer. They're not the answer. Then I used to think that Republicans were the answer, the opposite side. But then when you see it, that's the coin. It's you're getting the heads or you're getting tails, because it's the same coin. You're not, just because you make it a heads, you still get the tails. You know what I'm saying? So I want to go to a different area, to a different arena, away from, Democrats and Republicans, because in my eyes, I'm starting to see that shit as, no different than when I was in the hood over north. You know what I'm saying? When I used to gang bang, that's the one crazy thing of it is, right? Because I honestly, I've been seeing some things, right, of ex gang members this, ex gang members that. Yeah, I don't know the X shit. I don't really get. I just don't get that shit. You see people sitting all because you're getting paid. You shut the fuck up. Because they sign your checks, you shut up. I don't get that. Yeah, I seen that. I seen that, man, and I really, that's the one crazy thing that I will never understand. Right? Is if somebody from that I grew up over, North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, Rochester, somebody that came from poverty, somebody that's come from the wrong side of the tracks, that came from gentrification areas, that came from areas that have been basically a testing field. But we're never used because they never ask how we're affected. They ask the people that they pay how they're affected. And then it's like, how do they know? How do they know? Because they heard it from some niggas. That's what I don't understand. And it's like, we sit here and vote. I seen the lady this morning, Miss Rarick, I think her name is, Maine or something. I don't know. She's in Minnesota. She's from Maple Lake. I get her name or whatever, but it's like her 7th term. And it's like, lady, what are you doing? What do you get? Like, my thing of it is, a lot of this shit has been passed since you've been a legislator. So what are you doing? The words here, because you've passed this shit. The same thing with Miss Robbins, with Krista. A lot of this shit they're throwing back at the legislators is the words y'all passed. Even if you did a no vote, nigga, you voted. You didn't stop it. That's the one thing that, even with the omnibus bill last year, that's the one crazy thing of it is. And I kind of hope that they're saying that the Democrats should shut down the government next month because we only got a bill to March. Right. Oh, I seen that shit. No, I'm gonna talk about that, because even with our organizations that are supposed to be helping people, right? But how are they helping when they're going against? See, that's what I don't understand, right? Is you got organizations out here doing and going, just like I'm about to play in this next story, and it's crazy to me. It's like, I want to show y'all this, right? Because it tripped me out. And this is an organization that has been linked to Feeding Our Future in Rochester. And so just watch this.
Somali American Social Services Association, or SASSA, had a packed crowd at Rochester Area Foundation this afternoon, where visitors got a chance to learn valuable information from community experts. The SASSA is a nonprofit that was founded in 2012. The organization looks to rebuild and assist underserved immigrant communities in Olmsted County. Today's session gave visitors the chance to learn some valuable information if they are new to Rochester or the United States. Some of the topics discussed today's meeting focused on immigration, healthcare, business, and education.
I wanted to get all questions they have my community to answer to the same community, because they have more trust when they see young educators to speak their language, to know who they are, and information they get it, they trust them.
And in case you were not able to make it to today's session, but are still interested on learning more about what everything is.
So the Somali, the SSA, is the Somali America Social Services Association, right? So they went to a Helen event this past weekend at the Rochester Area Foundation. We all know where that's on South Broadway, across from the rec center. Now, these sessions claim to be all about educating the community. But let me ask you this. Did they talk about feeding our future and the other nonprofit scams that scam millions out of taxpayer dollars? You know, the same fraud that ran deep in Minnesota, where folks pocketed food program money meant to feed children. You see, nonprofits come into our communities, claim they want to help, but half the time they're lining their own pockets. I'm going to say that again. They line in their own pockets. Nobody talks about accountability until the feds kick in the door, and then by then the money is long gone. They tell us to trust the system, but the system keeps playing us. So here's my question to the people running these information sessions. Where's the transparency? Where's the call to action to make sure our communities ain't the ones getting played? Are we just supposed to act like it never happened? That's what I want to ask. Are we supposed to act like all this shit has never fucking happened? Because this is why we're in this in the first place. It's because it did happen. We can't act like that slaves never built the White House, because that did happen. This shit that needs to be, and that's, I'm gonna tell you like this. One of this, I don't even, man, let me stop. 1865 when the Emancipation Proclamation. When was the White House built? I'll wait. 1792. So that's 70 fucking years. 70. So when people sit here and want to talk about, you know, reparations and y'all have a conversation. But here's the thing of it is that I'll tell you that most of these people on these reparation boards, show me your documents. Show me your documentation, your paperwork, your lineage. Right? Show me the numbers that your ancestors had at maybe, you know, Ellis Island when they came over here. What was their enslaved names? What were their owners? Because I know a lot of that. I know who we were indentured to. My ancestors, they were indentured to Irish. If you go by what a Neil is, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so let's have a conversation. That's the one thing that I will never understand, man. We allow these people to sit here and fuck us over and not say nothing or do nothing. That's crazy. So I want to get into how everybody's talking about this DEI, you know, how we had an individual that in, I think he's in Maine, at Greeley High School, how 2023 won third place in the men's, boys, whatever they want to call it, and then 2025 won the girls. I think it was running. And it's like, damn, you know, that's crazy as hell. And then we're going through the same shit. We're going through the same shit. The same shit. And do we need to be going through that? You know, that's not the, in my eyes, I'm going to be 100%, is that that's not a place, education, public, like our curriculum, that's not something that we should be teaching, you know. And I understand it's a part of our history, but that's not something that we should be directly leading on. So with that being said, I want to get to this. Minnesota GOP and DFL state senators discuss federal government DEI ultimatum.
Welcome back. Schools have until the end of the month, which is this coming Friday, to comply with sweeping changes in education. On February 14th, the Trump administration sent a letter to schools telling them to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion related initiatives or risk losing federal funding. Well, now this past Friday, a federal judge largely blocked parts of the administration's executive order, and for many adding to confusion over what happens next with all of this. Joining us now is GOP State Senator Zach Duckworth, lead of the State Senate's Higher Education Committee. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
There's a lot going on in regards to this. So what does this mean exactly? What's going to actually happen in the next 5 days?
Sure. I think sort of as we've seen deadlines in the courts and what the federal government is trying to do in terms of change is kind of subject to all sorts of timelines. But I think the message that's being sent out of Washington, D.C. is pretty clear, and that is whether you're a K-12 public school or a higher education institution, they really want to take any sort of political ideology and remove it from the classroom and allow students to focus on academics.
Where does this fall as far as, from the state level? Because in the various, what's being asked and then some of the Minnesota law, there's conflicts.
There is, and obviously federal law can trump state law at times, especially when it comes to funding. And so a lot of schools, especially higher education institutions, are going to have to ask themselves, do they want to comply with what the federal government is now requiring of them in order to continue to receive some of that funding, or do they not? And the choice will ultimately be theirs.
Whether you're talking, preschool, prior to kindergarten, all the way up through, university, there's all sorts of growing language immersion programs. And some of those have diversity built into the fabric of them. How do you see those being impacted by this?
Sure. Well, I think, the general idea of diversity has been around well before some of the DEI initiatives, which are probably a little bit more politically, ideologically focused. Diversity is a good thing. We believe that here in America and Minnesota. And so I don't think our immersion schools are really going to see much impact, or the people fulfilling those roles. It's really the initiatives are super politically, ideologically charged. They're the ones that the federal government are kind of trying to get after.
Switching gears quite a bit, but another education topic that has really gotten a lot of attention this week is the possibility of eliminating the requirement for Algebra 2 in high school. I'm curious your thoughts on this, because it's definitely getting a lot of mixed reviews.
Yeah, well, so immediately I have to admit I'm biased. Math is my weakness, so I kind of I'm open-minded to what we're requiring of students upon graduation. It was a requirement that was implemented a few years ago. There were mixed feelings on it, and a lot of our students may or may not go on to use those skill sets after high school. So the question becomes, do we focus it on kids that want to opt to take it, they're going to go on to college and get a 4-year degree and allow other students not to, or do we keep it a requirement? We don't want to lower standards for kids. We want them to succeed. So it's a conversation I think we're still going to continue to have.
And what are you looking forward to? I mean, just on the education committees, what's your next thing on your agenda that you're looking forward to tackling the most?
We need to help our school districts and our teachers and our kids tremendously. We have school districts all across the state of Minnesota that are facing massive deficits due to several unfunded mandates that were passed over the last couple of years, and they need our help.
All right, Senator Duckworth, thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back. Schools have until the end of the month, which is this coming Friday, to comply with sweeping changes in education. On February 14th, the Trump administration sent a letter to schools telling them to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion related initiatives or risk losing federal funding. Now, this past Friday, a federal judge largely blocked parts of the administration's executive order. So for many, leading to more questions. What does this all mean? And joining us now is DFL Senator Erin May Quaid, Vice Chair of the state's Education Policy Committee. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
From the other side of the aisle, last hour we did speak with GOP committee member Senator Zach Duckworth, but curious your thoughts as well on some of these similar questions. Starting with, what does this mean for our districts and even, pre-K, schools all the way through university? What does this mean between now and Friday?
Well, I mean, I'm glad a federal judge has blocked the orders, but I think it's really important to just take a step back and understand what the goal of the administration is when they issue these kinds of edicts. If we look at what Republicans might call diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility through history, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, the 19th Amendment, the Civil Rights Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, all of these are diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And so even though a federal judge has both blocked these orders and, no state or federal law or state or federal constitution has been changed. People understand that the goal of this administration is to really segregate students and enforce kind of a racial and gender hierarchy in school. And we've seen that happening in military bases where the president does have some more authority over public schools. They're taking down posters of Harriet Tubman, taking books about Dr. King off the shelves, books about slavery off the shelves. And so it really is about, kind of pushing us backwards to a time, when we had segregation in schools, when we had a racial and gender hierarchy in schools, and schools know that. And so it's a really chilling effect that these executive orders are having, threatening federal funding or, investigations, those kinds of things. It's a really scary time.
So what are you folks doing from the state perspective and in these education committees?
Yeah.
So how do you prepare for this?
Yeah, I mean, in the Education Finance Committee, we had a hearing to talk about what federal funding do Minnesota schools receive from the federal government. And the way that the reimbursement model works is that schools spend the money, they get the reimbursement from the state. Then the state gives the money to the schools, and then we get the reimbursement from the federal government. So it's really not like a direct line in the way that maybe, Donald Trump and his top campaign donor might think that federal funding works. But what we're really trying to do is make sure that districts know that they still have a lawful and constitutional obligation to educate their students in, our public education system and treat them with dignity and all of the things that they've been required to do, whether it's next Friday or the previous Friday before that.
There's so many different things that I'm curious about, but one of them is there's a growing number of immersion programs, language immersion programs all across the state, and some of those have diversity and some of that built right into their titles. What are your thoughts for those schools?
Well, let's actually even just talk about special education. It's the largest diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility project that any school undertakes, right? And so by its logical conclusion, special education is under threat. And we've seen that from Republican states that are suing to upend Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, which is how a lot of students access special education services. And it's not just immersion programs, but think about English language learners. Those are programs that we have in schools as well. And so, yes, I think the goal is to upend those things. And so schools are right to be concerned, but this chaos, it's really, really hard to just operate with the kind of certainty that districts, parents, students deserve from their government.
All right, lots of questions. We'll continue following things. So Senator Aaron McQuaid, thank you.
Wow. So it is going to get kind of tricky. It is kind of, but to be honest, is it really, you heard Quaid, and then you hear, I think it was Stevenson or whatever, Torkelson. I think it was Torkelson. You sit there and speak. What is it really going to be about? Is it going to be about going back to an area that we've seen maybe, Ruby Bridges? We've seen the Arkansas 9, Little Rock 9. That was moving. I went down there and I seen that, and that was very moving. To go to an area that that you've been, has been discussed throughout history. If you paid attention to history class or whatever, it's really shocking to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, even when you go through and you learn that, what people did, what Black Americans did while they were enslaved, while they were, oppressed, and still be the magnificent inventors of so many things out throughout America that we use today. And in my eyes, is it really about, should it be about erasing that? It should be about enlightening. We shouldn't be eradicating something that honestly a lot of people don't even know anything about, that don't know a damn thing. So even just like with this, because I will tell you like this, I watched this interview this morning, and it brought so many different cases in Minnesota in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? When we talked about, Robert Johnson, we talk about, Marvin Haynes, we talk about Edgar Barrentos, we talk about so many other individuals that are even behind bars that shouldn't even be there because the crime, they're either innocent or they never did it. There's no evidence, there's no physical, there's nothing. But yet there's some lying witnesses that if they lied, it benefited them. And now that, people are coming out and maybe telling the truth, individuals don't believe that. And it's like, why? Well, because they're always going to believe that story, that narrative that was told that was all lies, right? Because we've seen it with, Marvin Hayes. So I want to get into Robert Johnson, who spent 29 years behind bars for a crime he did not commit and was released.
You're looking live at 26 in California, where Robert Johnson, 43-year-old, has finally been released from prison. He's been in there for almost 30 years. He had his sentence vacated yesterday. I think he's coming up to the microphone, and let's hear what he has to say.
Robert, just tell us what you're feeling right now, man.
I didn't think this day was gonna happen. They had me in that cage for 28 years and 10 months of my life for something I didn't have nothing to do with. I'm just thankful that we got in front of a judge that was honorable and that was fair and finally put an end to this nightmare, this hell on earth that I've been dealing with since I was 16 years old.
Robert, your family said you stayed so positive over the last 28 years. What was it like? What went through your head for the last 3 decades?
I had my ups and downs. It was positive, negative. At one point, I was real bitter. I came up out of that because of my family. They supported me, kept my heart. And I'm really lost for words, but I'm gonna get through this here. I came up out of it and I started fighting to prove my innocence, and started writing people. I don't know how many letters I wrote, maybe thousands. No matter how many no's I got one yes. And that's when things started to change for me.
So what's next for you?
What's next for me? I would really like to start making the world more conscious of there are a lot of people in prison for things that they didn't do. It seems to me that the public, it's like they see it on the news, but it's like they don't relate to it. For some reason, they don't understand that it is a reality. Like, it was just easy just for them to go in there and just say it was me. And I've been in here 28 years of my life. And there wasn't nothing I can do about it. I tried. I screamed. Wouldn't nobody listen to me. And I just want the world to know that there are people, it's still people here in prison, in the Cook County Jail, for things they didn't, for crimes that they didn't commit. And I just wish the public will be outraged about it.
Of course, you missed memories for decades with your family. What does it mean to have the support system and kind of now make up for that lost time?
It means the world to me. My grandmother, she used to always say, well Robert, I hope I'm here when you get out. And I used to always say, Grandma, don't say that. You gonna be here. Man, she was here. And she's here.
Did you always know you were going to get out?
No.
And what did you do to keep going when you were thinking that way for so long and when you were bitter? How did you do the strength?
At one point, I had lost my faith in God, and then I regained it. My grandma, she's real strong in her faith, and she raised me that way. And I didn't stray too far from it. I grasped back to it, and like I say, my family, they kept me strong, and other supporters kept me strong as well through the years.
When did you start to realize this might be possible? When they took up your case with the exoneration process, when did you start to really realize you could get out of there?
Well, because I was really starting to lose hope. When I started to really gain hope, that's when I was introduced to a journalist from New York. Her name is Elise. I talked to her on the phone, and she told me, well, I'm not making no promises. I'll see what I can do. It was just something in her voice that gave me hope. And she talked to Allison. I don't know what she talked to her. And when Allison responded back, it was real positive, and the ball started rolling, and that's when I really started to like say, this could possibly happen for me.
And you got your education in there?
Yeah, I got my GED, which was hard because in Menard, when you have a lot of time, they put you at the end of the list. So it took me 7 years to get in school. And that was, I had to literally keep on writing and keep on bothering them about it. They finally gave me the opportunity. I also have, I think 46 credits towards my associate's degree.
Okay.
I wasn't able to complete it because of COVID. They stopped allowing us to go to school.
Right.
And, they haven't brought it back since.
What do you do tonight? For tonight? I know this is a homecoming.
Your aunt said Cheesecake Factory. What do you think? What do you want to eat first?
That's really just a home-cooked meal. The food in prison, I'm sure y'all know, is horrible.
Right. Right, especially for a crime you didn't commit.
I miss my grandma's cooking.
Right.
I do.
Is there a certain meal you're hoping that you'll get tonight or in the next coming days that you know your grandma makes?
I used to like when she used to cook this, I don't know, it was like corn cakes. I used to like when she do that and put butter on it. That's my grandma right there. Mary Robinson.
Got that right.
That's what's up.
She never left me.
92.
Always was there for me.
Gonna always be there.
She took me in her house when I was 10 years old.
And they taken him out and he didn't make it back. But I praise God and I kept on lifting him up. I didn't give up hope.
Right.
I'm 92. I'll be 93 in March. God's been good. He brought him up. Oh, you free. You're free.
We don't want to keep you any longer, so you can enjoy your family. Anything else you'd like to add, you'd like people to know?
I really just want to thank y'all. Thank y'all for being out here and just getting it out and exposing to the world that these things do happen. I spent 28 years in prison for something I had nothing to do with. So thank y'all for covering this.
This gotta get in shape fast.
If you want to drop this story,
that's crazy. Because there is so many stories of Robert Johnson in America. You know, I mean, I think about just the last couple months, you know, how many exonerated families that we've seen, how many cases that you've seen, like Philip Vance. Hopefully he will be released, exonerated sometime this year. Even when it comes to our conviction review unit, it makes me feel like our getting people free part of their agenda. Is it getting the people that were incarcerated for the bullshit that you created? Are you gonna get them out and do the right thing? Are you gonna make it a political shenanigan where it really shouldn't be? You should just want to do the right thing. And that's where it came to be, like, even with this, you know, fraud and oversight committee, right? To me, is it about fraud prevention or is it just another cover up? You know, that's where I really want to take it, because as I listen to this, you know, fraud committee, I've listened to, you know, the public safety committees. I've been listening to the Ways and Means. I love this time because I get to watch and I get to educate myself on different statutes, on different things that are going to the Capitol and they're arguing about, debating. I shouldn't say argue, but debating about. So I'm educating myself. Even when it came to the Fathers Project, I was a man that when I had Sabrina and Jasmine, you know, I was a part of that Fathers Project. They had a house over there on 16th Street. across from, I think it was Crossroads College or something. And so I understand that. So I don't understand why we're not taking people that have been through situations and using them as stories, because that's when we learn. You know what I'm saying? If we heard Eliza Darris's, because I will tell you like this, even though I call him a coon, I call him whatever, you know what I'm saying? I will say it like this, is that I understand that we all have stories, but your story doesn't neglect that there's millions of I shouldn't say millions, thousands of Black men with similar stories. And are we doing the same thing, Eliza, to get them free? Because we can talk about it all day on social media. We can talk about it at these galas. And just like Ben said, they had a gala this weekend for the Boys and Girls Club, and where they're celebrating. But when you look at the data and statistics, what are they celebrating? What are we celebrating? Are we celebrating people doing wrong? Is that what we celebrate? So I want to get into, it looks inside this fraud committee, the House Fraud Committee. And I want people to, I think that's Aaron, the reporter's name is, but they interview Krista Robbins. So get into this right here.
With fraud investigations, including Feeding Our Future siphoning millions of state dollars, I talked to the GOP chair of the new Minnesota House Fraud Committee, Kristen Robbins, last week. Take a look. Well, joining us right now is the chair of the new Fraud and Oversight Committee, Republican representative from Maple Grove, Kristen Robbins. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
All right. What is the goal of your committee?
So the goal of the committee is to provide legislative oversight of the executive agencies. We have not had this opportunity in the 6 years I've been serving. I just started my 7th year, and I think it's very important. It's a separation of powers issue. We appropriate the money, but then there doesn't seem to be a lot of oversight over how it's spent. And clearly we have a huge fraud problem in Minnesota. So that will be the work of this committee, to provide oversight.
All right. I heard you on the last committee meeting that I was at, or that I was listening to, you digging down, asking whether the ability to terminate a contract should either be mandatory or optional. It sounds like it's optional. It sounds like you wanted to look into it being mandatory. Is that what's needed, the ability of administrators to cancel a contract if things are not looking right?
It really appears that way. I mean, it's kind of stunning to me that we would have to micromanage in statute to that level, because there is sort of broad grant making authority and broad grant oversight authority, which includes, compliance and fraud prevention and all these things. But because the statute says you may stop payment, not you must stop payment, the testimony was that they are not stopping payment in a lot of instances. So if we have to strengthen it, we will, and I'm working on a bill on that right now.
And one of the things, if you read the autism search warrant, this is the latest investigation into fraud. We don't even know how big it is, but it appears to be very, very big, very similar to the way Feeding Our Future was actually put together. It looks like the numbers of requests for autism services in Minnesota just exploded, and everybody was just saying yes and signing the checks or turning over the federal money. Why didn't somebody stop it and say, wait a minute, we couldn't have these many new autism cases?
I honestly have no idea, and we do hope to have a hearing on that subject. So we're kind of laying out in sort of a methodical way the oversight process. So first meeting, we had the Office of the Legislative Auditor. Last week, we had the head of the Office of Grants Management. This coming Monday, we will be having the acting commissioner of DHS, which I'm very much looking forward to. But at some point under the DHS umbrella, I hope to get to some of those behavioral health specific questions. But clearly, this is a pattern, right? So it's not a one-off with Feeding Our Future, which was enormous. there's a pattern of people using fraud as a business model to take advantage of the taxpayers of Minnesota, and then people who really do need services are not getting served. So we have to take this seriously. We have to know how to recognize the pattern, and we have to be able to have the tools to shut it down.
All right. I do have to ask you, your name has been thrown out there as somebody who may be running on the Republican side for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated in 2026 by Senator Tina Smith. Are you running?
I'm considering it.
Okay, and quickly, why do you think you'd be a good senator for Minnesota?
You know, I think that this is a question that we can talk about on a different day. My focus right now is serving the legislature, serving the people of Minnesota, and getting to the root of the fraud. And I do have to say, this business model idea is something that I hope people really take seriously. People are preying on the most vulnerable and signing them up for services that are either not provided or not provided in the way they're intended, or that keep them ensnared in a cycle so that they keep getting paid for services. And this is an incredible problem, and we really need to root it out. So that's my focus right now, and the other questions will work themselves out.
All right. Thank you so much, Representative Robbins, and you're absolutely.
But I honestly don't think that questions will work themselves out, because in my eyes, it's already, I feel like it's a selective enforcement. It's targeted scrutiny and exactly how they keep certain people from getting ahead. You know what I'm saying? That's like, it's what we need to talk about. And honestly, you know, when it came to this power sharing agreement, when it came to the Democrats and Republicans in the House, did it help the people? Because I will tell you like this, every day, and I shouldn't even say every day, but every week, we're coming to find out that it's either daycare, treatment and recovery, violence interrupters, autism centers, personal care attendants, you know, Medicaid. And it's like, damn, is everything like literally like waste? Like, is there legislation, is there policies that like there's loopholes? And then we see it. Because I will tell you like this, if people started looking at, I need to do an episode this week on 990 forms. I really need to look at, I'm going to start setting that up today. I'm going to probably do one sometime this week, probably in the next couple of days. I'm going to literally set up an episode about 990 forms, because that is something that we need to go through and we need to look at. Because when it comes down to transportation, when it comes down to housing, we need to look at the administration costs. We need to look at what are they paying for? What are they doing? Because I will tell you like this, we're seeing too many CEOs and directors that are living in, they're changing their bank accounts, but not changing the community, right? Because I'm tired of people going up to and making clout and fame off of 15 minutes of going to a meeting. And then we talk about something, we talk about all week, but yet what gets done? Because we're still talking about fraud. We're still talking about waste. And yet people are getting mad. How can you get mad? This the one thing of it is, I don't understand his agenda, because honestly, I don't know what Elon's doing. Right? I don't know if he's a true Republican. I don't know if he's a true Democrat. What I do know is that he sees waste, that he's finding waste in these programs. When it came to USAID, when it came to Department of Education, when it came to ethnic studies. I get it. He's a billionaire. He's one of the richest men in the world. Right? But we need to really be transparent about all of this. You know what I'm saying? Because I really feel like there's a lot of people that sit at home and call themselves activists, but should be called activists. That's the one thing that I will say, right? Because, you know, we got A-level celebrities, A-level, right? We got the Will Smiths, the Denzel Washingtons. Then we got B-level, right? So we got Gilly the Kid, we got Wallow, we got Club Shay Shay. Then we got C, that's the reality stars, right? And then we got D-level. So then we got the little activists like Nikema or Jerry McAfee or Ben Crump or Al Sharpton. So there's levels to this shit. When are people not going to understand that? Because, you know, that's the one thing that I will never understand, right? is when Trump got sworn in, right? And everybody was even. I didn't like it, but I didn't like it when people were performing for the Democrats, right? Because that's not but I understand they're paid entertainers. But it was all people that we used to listen to that were stars. You know, Rick Ross, when has he had a hit? He's known because of the Drake and 50 beefs, drama, I should say. You know what I'm saying? They brought up who else performed? Snoop Dogg, Nelly. Nobody was listening to these niggas. Nobody. No, when did these niggas ever hit? When is the last time they had a hit? Soulja Boy. Come on, he was the first to what? Everything he say, he the first to do something. He had fake ass glasses, fake ass iPhones, video game systems. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, do we really care? And then the Democrats were using Megan Thee Stallion, Oprah, bless up, bless up. They were using, Ashanti. People that maybe I shouldn't say Ashanti because I don't think they used her, but Alicia Keys, and Cardi B. Like, is that the type of level that we really be on? Because I will tell you like this, and I don't have it set up, right? But I know tonight, actually, I'm going to go look for it because I think this is important because, there's not very often. And I hope that a lot of people, because I'm going to share this too. Tonight, a 10-year-old is speaking to a student council, or not a student council, the school board, and is asking for people to come and support. And if you can't come, I think people should get online and you should watch it, right? Because it's a 10-year-old. It's somebody that has talking about their story. So here it is. Oh, I can't. Let me pull it up. So it says, my 10-year-old daughter, Amasaya Margaret, will be speaking at the Red Wing at the public school board meeting tomorrow. This is tonight, so it'll be Red Wing High School in room J10 about her experiences at Birdside Elementary School, and I will most likely speak afterwards. So here is if you want to, I'll get all the information. Maybe she did put the link, but I think you got to hit it. But I definitely will put this up there. So please pay attention tonight. It starts at 5:30 in Red Wing. I do believe that is something that we should all, pay attention to and I definitely agree, Ben. I definitely agree. That's one thing that we did get away from. That's one thing that I can guarantee that has been spotlighted more is when it came to our scientists, our biologists. There's really not more American based or more from other countries. That's something that you see, China or England, countries over there that are taking this technology and advancement and going further with it and not really bringing it and making it more beneficial for their country. And I don't understand why we don't do that. Why aren't we grabbing each other instead of we get to the top and then want to kick a motherfucker down once they start rising? Because there's some things that I do want to talk about, but I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't. And honestly, that's just the way it goes. That's the way that history has been. That's the way history repeats itself. But I think I'm going to be one of them ones that will be praised when he's dead and not when he's alive. What's right. I so agree with that. And that's the one thing that, what's crazy, Ben? I started to think about this, right? And I'm going to get back to that, Mike, before I get out of here, about, supporting the LGBT community, but not a black girl. I want to get to Ben's comment because he says that we don't want to do it for black people globally. And honestly, I agree with that, right? And I'm going to tell you this because they push, you know, people like Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, who were, you know, Malcolm was really, you know, white devil, blah, blah, blah. But then when you went to Mecca, right? And he understood it. He trying to bring, because that's the one thing, you know, somebody was talking about Elijah Muhammad, Farrakhan. These niggas ain't even from here. No, their parents were, they check their parents' ethnicities. You know what I'm saying? Their nationalities. And I'm like, damn, that's crazy. So I understand why they put MLK down our throats, you know, because that dream is turning into a nightmare. And you see all these amendments. We have to educate ourselves because they're not going to do it. They're not going to be the ones to better ourselves because they don't care. That's why we see Sumner projects gone, but yet there's condos. And you see that Harvest Best, come on, the teacher of the year, sexually abusing kids over there. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and then we look at these foundations, the Minneapolis Foundation, We Win Institute, all these other shit. But what really gets better? Because they ask for more money to maybe spruce up their buildings, make it more accessible for the people. But are you making it accessible on the streets for the people? Are you only making it accessible for one range of individuals? When in my eyes, we already do that, but because you know what I'm saying, it pays, we look the other way. And that's what one thing that I wanted to get into. And I'm glad he said that, you know, because look at Red Wing, right? You look at what's going on in there. And this is really sad, right? I didn't, but I hope that this honestly brings a conversation in Red Wing, Minnesota that they need to have, right? So I look at Sam Norquist, who was a trans man and it was killed, right? It was they've arrested, I think, 7 people in his murder. I've seen more people come out for a gay black man who died, but y'all wouldn't support a white gay family from Stan. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, damn, or they don't support a black girl when it's time for city council, public school meetings, because they look the other way. And it's easier. That's what's crazy. And like I said, right now in Red Wing, you see it down at the depot by the train, you see them doing something for the LGBTQ community. But when it comes to the black community, we're left behind. And honestly, I think that's a lot of our black people's reasons, because we look the other way when shit's happening. Right. I have noticed that. That's why I've kind of got off the Sam tip. Not that I'm not sad about what happened to Sam, but he was more than just trans. Sam was more than just trans. He was a black trans. And everybody they're arresting is white. Everybody they're arresting is white. So just because they're in the same community doesn't mean that. Look at the races. Look at the races, because it's really fucking ridiculous, man. I will say that it's beyond despicable sometimes that what we care about as individuals and what we'll look at and what we'll see as wrong. Because if a celebrity's doing it, all fine and dandy, but if somebody in our community, we look the other way. We call them out. Oh, we got to stop them. Well, what do you mean? Shouldn't that be all of our jobs? It should be all of our jobs, not just a few. It should be all of us. So that's what's crazy to me is like people look at, especially what happened to Sam Norquist and Red Wing. You know, it was New York where he got, you know, killed. I just seen that over the weekend, his body was brought back to Minnesota. And that's great. I think that, like I said, I agree with Michael. What happened to Sam is sad. And it opens the door for another conversation, because no family should have to go through that. Even when I look at the GoFundMe, that's why I say we're worth more dead than we are alive. Because I will tell you like this, nobody was talking about Sam when he was alive. Because when he was missing, you know, that's the one crazy thing. And I really don't want to bring it there, but it made me sad when, you know, there was posts out there that he was missing, and then seeing the dates of like they had last had contact. And I said, that's, you know, what's fucked up about all of this is that probably Sam is dead. And they're not really we're going to have to make them come out with it. We're going to have to make New York. And it's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, but there's things that we could have prevented this. You know, I've listened to, I haven't spoke to Linda Nordquist, Sam's family at all in this. I've only had, you know, from interviews or whatever that they've done with national media. But I will say this is that I listened to Miss Nordquist, Linda, and it makes me sad to know that we could have prevented. You know, Sam was looking for love because he didn't feel a part in his own community. He wanted to be a part of something. And if it was love, if it was just wanting to feel somebody's touch, we all need that. We all want that. So it's wild as hell to me. I will never get it, but I'm hoping that we teach our kids to be better people. I'm hoping that we use this as not as just as a learning experience, but as we need to pay attention to what's going on around us. So with that being said, man, I hope everybody had a great Monday. I'm going to be coming back later on this week with another episode and talking about 990 forms. But I'm going to get up out of here. I hope y'all have a great Monday. There's a committee going on right now, Ways and Means. Just go check it out. But I want to get into Hope Heaven Knows, the Urban Conservative. I just dropped this over the weekend, and I hope y'all like it. I've really put a lot of work into it. And I got another one I'm probably going to drop this week too later on. I've been working on it. So with that being said, man, win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well, and y'all have a great one. And I will see y'all tomorrow, same time, same place. Peace, love, unity.
I sit back, reflect, try to rise above the stress. Life's a test. Sometimes you cut throats just to cash your check. If greed's the devil's seed, guess I'm living possessed. Ain't perfect, nah, but Lord knows I gave it my best. Mama pushed me to fly, told me fly and progress. I hope heaven knows. Now I'm soaring through the night, battle scarred on my chest. Lit like a street light, guiding others through the fight. I hope you follow my steps, get the struggle right. All my people eat, break bread, let's divide the plate. The rod stays ready, just waiting for the hook to take. If you feel brave, then leap. Test my fight, test my peace. Keep 2 heaters with me, Jordan style, 23s. All's well that ends well, Lord, I pray you see my pain. I hope heaven knows my struggle. Hope my losses weren't in vain. I hope heaven knows. 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 I hope heaven knows.